I just don't know how you can pretend to care about law enforcement or back the blue or integrity or rule of law or anything and confirm this person to be the director of the FBI without finding additional information that the whistleblower is lying or something else. There's some other story here besides the obvious. Because he just told a flat, bald-faced lie about his role in firing the people that he is now nominated to lead. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. I'm delighted to be here today with one of my faves, an investigative reporter at the Washington Post. She writes about government misconduct, presidential power, the Justice Department, and the FBI. A four-time winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Her books include A Very Stable Genius, Donald Trump's Testing of America. It's Carol Leonnig and her cat. How you doing, Carol?
Hey, Tim. It's great to be with you as usual.
Good to have you. That beat is kind of not really relevant right now. Government misconduct, Justice Department, and FBI. Nothing happening for you, right?
No, just, working on my self-care, my nails, nothing going on.
Tanning. Okay, well, that sounds nice. I want to start with Kash Patel. We'd reached out because what I think is the biggest story of the day, really, even though there's obviously a lot happening. What we had these firings at the FBI. We talked about this with Andrew Weissman last week. Top FBI officials pushed out, and then there was a broader mandate that anybody that was touched or anybody that was involved, rather, in the Donald Trump investigations, there's going to be a review of their employment. You guys at the Post had reported that FBI officials sent out a questionnaire over the weekend to determine whether the personnel and to determine personnel involvement in cases related to the January 6th attack. So all of that was happening at the FBI. Meanwhile, Kash Patel was going through his confirmation hearings, and at those confirmation hearings, Cory Booker asked him this. I want to play what Cory Booker asked Kash Patel.
Are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations? Yes or no?
I'm not aware of that,
Thank you.
Senator.
So now we have a whistleblower report out today that's indicating maybe Kash might have been aware of that. So a lot there, Carol. Why don't you get everybody up to speed on what we know?
It's really been a breathtaking set of days. And I don't just mean this to complain about our work-life balance. I just mean if you are an employee of the FBI, you have experienced every day maybe 2 or 3 events that have been stunners. A week before last, a series of the executive leadership for Chris Wray, the FBI director, all career employees, right? They're not beholden to Chris Wray, but they are promoted by him into high-level jobs. All of them were brought into a meeting the day before Kash Patel's hearing and told, your names are on a list to go. And the next morning, while Kash Patel is testifying, they are brought again, a larger group of them brought into a meeting with their acting directors, Driscoll and Kassane, and told, you got to resign or you'll be fired by Friday. Resign, retire, your choice, but you got to be gone. And we're sorry. We're just the messengers here. So now, fast forward a little bit. And over the weekend, all the FBI employees are learning that they are going to be questioned on a formal survey about their role in January 6th. Did you execute a search warrant? Did you subpoena anybody? Did you interview, testify, arrest? A kind of almost like a survey monkey survey to figure out, what was your role in investigating a violent insurrection and attack on police. So all those things are happening in a string of days, while Kash Patel is assuring the Democrats and the Senate Judiciary Committee that he would never be involved in any political retribution, and he's not aware of any plans to get rid of anybody. Okay, fast forward. Dick Durbin, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, says he has multiple quote unquote whistleblowers. We use the term carefully. Credible sources who've come forward to him to say that those acting directors, Driscoll and Kassane, were being told at that very moment on Wednesday and Thursday, the Wednesday before the hearing and the Thursday of the hearing, that Kash Patel was the person who wanted these people gone. In fact, in contemporaneous notes taken by an FBI official, it says KP wants fast movement on this, and that Stephen Miller had been calling.
Maybe that was Kristaps Porzingis. It could be anybody. KP. There are a lot of different people with names KP. Sorry, continue.
Right. I mean, I think what's interesting to remember about Kash Patel is that he's an interesting witness on the stand, right? He told the entire public in the middle of the Mar-a-Lago records dispute, when it became news and reporters were learning that the FBI was investigating whether Donald Trump was hoarding classified records in 2022. Kash Patel, his loyal soldier, shows up on podcasts and interviews saying, I saw Donald Trump declassify all this stuff. He has ultimate power. I saw him declassify to the fullest extent of the law all of these records, as if the Mar-a-Lago records had been declassified and that wasn't a problem. Later, he was brought before a grand jury, and that's not what he said, according to sources. And in fact, testifying on Thursday last, Patel was pressed on that too and said, hey, wait a minute, I didn't say he declassified all those records. I said I saw him declassify a lot of records. So he's a wily witness, and
squirrely. I'm going to say squirrely. You say wily. I'll say squirrely. And I think maybe both of those are possibly kinds, depending on what the facts are.
It depends on your view, but if you counted how many times he used that favorite phrase, I can't recall as I sit here today. It's not ringing a bell, but if you gave me more information, one of the things that FBI employees and justice employees watched with shock, as they are literally watching his testimony live in their offices or in their remote work locations, as they're watching this, they're like, wait a minute, you said you don't know some of the prosecutors that were fired in Jack Smith's office? Because there's one particular one that Booker asked him about. And these were people that interviewed Patel for hours in the grand jury. So how could you forget that person?
Yeah. Well, there are a number of cases. And this came up multiple times during the hearing, right? Where it was he also claimed he didn't know about the pardons that were going to be happening of the insurrectionists. And again, that's kind of beggars belief. And then, there was a moment where he was asked about, his involvement with the January 6th choir and how he had told Steve Bannon that we were doing this. Remember, Adam Schiff was asking about this, that we were involved in this. And then he was claiming that he was using the royal we, like the editorial, right? Like it wasn't really me as part of the we. So like there were a number of times where it's just like, this person is lying. And I just want to go back again to I feel like we're in Breaking Bad. You remember the scene where it's like WW and Walter White is sitting there with his brother-in-law and they're like, who could WW be? Is it Woodrow Wilson? Is it Walt Whitman? It's KP wants movement at FBI. That's what the attendee purportedly wrote in the contemporary notes about the firings. I want to play the Cory Booker exchange one more time because, we talk about perjury and lying, but like this is as direct as it gets. Let's just listen to him one more time.
Are you aware of any plans or discussions to punish in any way, including termination, FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations? Yes or no?
I'm not aware of that,
Thank you.
Senator.
I'm not aware. At the same time, KP wants movement at FBI. I mean, there's no real gray area here. Is there? It's one or the other. He either was lying or the whistleblower is lying, right? Like somebody's not telling the truth here, right?
The problem is, I don't know that we're going to get the answer, Tim. You're absolutely right. There's no gray matter here. It's black, it's white, one or the other. And I'm not going to put a finger on the scale and say who is or isn't telling the truth, because I'm all about facts. But Kash Patel has not been a very careful, precise, or clear narrator in many other instances before. I mean, debating saying he doesn't recollect a prosecutor interviewed him for hours in the grand jury, saying he's not aware of the appointees that are some of his best friends being installed inside the FBI, people we're told he handpicked. But I don't think we're going to get an answer in any timely way. We've had 17 inspector generals fired by the president in the last several days, right? And now the Democrats of the Senate Judiciary Committee are asking the inspector general for the Department of Justice, one of the only ones that was not fired, to investigate this as quickly as possible. I don't see how this is going to happen quickly, and I think it's going to be challenging for an inspector general to deliver on this question, because remember, just yesterday, the inspector general for USAID, just to put this in context, was fired as soon as he delivered a report, fairly blistering report, explaining what the impact of Donald Trump's and DOJ's cuts in that agency were.
Yeah, I mean, it's the head of the FBI. I don't know how Republican senators, I know that they will, but I just don't know how you look the other way at that. That's like having somebody that is not trustworthy in this role. And it's not like running the Department of the Interior. Like you would think that you would want the truth. And if somebody's lying about treatment of federal law enforcement officials, also, it's not like even unsympathetic bureaucrats to Republicans. It's top level federal law enforcement. I guess maybe they are unsympathetic now. I don't know.
But you are one of the best read, most observant folks I know. You know what Speaker Johnson said the other day, which was basically like, I'm delighted about what Elon Musk is doing, right?
The
And
FBI you think is maybe different than the USAID, but I guess not anymore. I guess the federal law enforcement officials, people investigating drug crimes and domestic terrorism, are just like kind of lumped in with mid-level Department of Education staffers now. And I don't know. I'm curious though, from your reporting, like what it's like inside the building. And obviously there's some limits on what you can say, but like, your sources, the DOJ and FBI, I mean, what are people feeling about, right now, kind of what's happening and what's coming?
For all the reasons you mentioned and all the questions you've raised, they are about as low as they can go. There was a goodbye party for a person I'm not going to mention. I was not an invitee, just to be clear, but I was reporting a little bit around the edges of this party of a person who'd been forced out. And there was a funereal kind of quality as described by several of the guests. Like everyone was in the Biden political cadre that ran the Justice Department. Remember, there's only one political at the FBI, but there's quite a few at the Justice Department. That cadre was preparing for a pretty bracing landing of the 47th president and his administration, and what that would mean for the Justice Department and the FBI that is a component. But even they are gobsmacked. And one of the reasons is what you cited, like you got to believe that at the FBI, truth and truthfulness in congressional testimony would be important. Another thing that they felt was super important, and they talked about at the party, was Kash Patel may be the only nominee for FBI director who felt compelled to take the Fifth Amendment in testimony in a criminal investigation, the Mar-a-Lago documents case. Adam Schiff mentioned this rather prominently in the hearing, in the confirmation hearing. Kash Patel was sought to be immunized because he believed he might incriminate himself if he answered questions truthfully in the Mar-a-Lago case, and got a federal judge to hear his plea that he could not testify, that he had to take the Fifth Amendment, and she ultimately agreed and found that he had a reasonable basis to think that he had criminal exposure.
Brian Driscoll, the acting director of the FBI, or the Driz, and it does seem like something's going to come to the head with that. And if Kash gets confirmed, I'm just wondering if you have any reporting on this, like, kind of, it's
You know,
maybe the most crazy situation in the whole government.
he's walked a really interesting line, and he's viewed as extremely heroic by agents across the building. He has a good reputation, right? He's got 24 years of experience, had just been named, I think, the head of the Newark office, a pretty tough office and an important one, especially in terrorism and narcotics. And here he is threading this needle of not getting fired, but assuring his staff that he's not going to let them be illegally fired. And he's going to he didn't say these words, but between the lines in all of the memos he's been sending, staying in enormous contact with the staff, large all agency emails, he has said, in a way, I support you, I value your service, and I'm not going to let Emil Bove, the acting deputy attorney general, fire you unless he goes through his paces.
That will be an interesting one to watch. It's been really, it's kind of bracing the whole scenario. I mean, he's just this accidental acting bureau head, rising to the moment. Okay. One other topic about DOJ stuff that I just feel like is a little bit got lost. Trump ordered a pause the executive order on enforcing the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So about a week ago, you reported on this. This comes with some other directives that have come from Bondi as she's come in about not really enforcing FARA and kind of really de-emphasizing white collar and corruption crime altogether. Just wondering what you're hearing about that and kind of the implications of this change of emphasis from the DOJ.
So there's a lot that's gotten a buzzsaw taken to it in the Department of Justice's arsenal to fight corruption at home and abroad. And abroad, the FCPA is really about like American businessmen and women and companies and lobbyists can't bribe governments abroad to get their fork in that country. We want to avoid corruption of other countries, and we want to avoid aiding and abetting it and encouraging it because it's bad for us, it's bad for those countries. But that tool is basically taken off the table for the government, and it's super worrisome. There are other executive orders by Pam Bondi, particularly about FARA, that Justice Department, that's the one where you're supposed to register as an agent of a foreign government if you're lobbyists for them. That enforcement tool is less worrisome, even though that's been neutered as well, is less worrisome to many of the sources that I speak to. But foreign corrupt practices, this has been a mainstay for keeping our city on a hill, modeling as a country and demanding it of other countries. And so what's funny to me, funny is not the right word. What's ironic to me is this is what Trump wanted in 2017. And I reported on this in a book that I wrote with my colleague, Phil Rucker, A Very Stable Genius. Trump had basically confronted Rex Tillerson, not really part of the Justice Department firmament. He was the Secretary of State. And while they're sitting together talking, Trump says, look, I want to get rid of this Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, this bribery statute. Like, it's just not a level playing field for American business people because they can't bribe. And, that is so classic Trump, right? Let's level the playing field so everybody can crime. Tillerson, as I reported at the time, was aghast. Like, first, he was saying, like, I'm your Secretary of State. Second, that's a law, so I can't undo it. And third, it's really great that we have that protection, that anti-bribery statute. So Trump eventually somewhere along the line, forgot that this was a huge priority of his because he kind of hit that roadblock with Rex Tillerson. And though he may have tried to bring it up other places, it didn't go anywhere. But boom, here we are, Trump 2.0, and it's happening.
It's interesting. It is and it really is of a piece of just kind of that he wants to sort of end the U.S.'s kind of values-based role in the world, right? Like that there's a Western kind of alliance that is based on rule of law and democracy and, common values, and that we are going to have alliances based on that and interests that are informed by that. And like the shuttering of USAID and some of his other actions are just like tied to this, right? Like he doesn't see the U.S. as playing that role anymore. Like we're not going to do it like that. We're going to do it like China, where we can bribe people. We have interests. We'll give you guys a favor here, but then if you screw us, we'll screw you back, right? Like that's how he sees things, zero sum. And I don't know. It's going to have a lot of reverberations, I think, around the world. Carol, any final thoughts for us? Anything else? Any deep reporting? Any secrets? Any news you want to break?
What you said just made me think about the lens through which we watch Donald Trump, which is a person who's unapologetically transactional and a real estate investor who thinks about acquiring things. And now, Greenland, Canada, Gaza, and a person who isn't thinking about sort of the model of America, but is thinking of the model of Donald Trump. And that's where we are leaning right now as a country.
Well, all right, Carol Leonnig, do come back. Lots going to be happening inside the DOJ. We look forward to having your reporting on that and Secret Service. I wanted to get to your reporting on the plane crash. There's so much. So come back soon, and appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Tim, for shining a light.
I just wanted to put a finer point on what we were talking about there with the Republicans in the Senate, because Carol's doing the Lord's work out there. Got to do her reporting, and so haranguing her about the cowardly Republicans doesn't do us a lot of good. But I have to say, it is absolute madness that the Republicans would confirm this person. I mean, like, this is not really even in the line of what we were talking about with Hegseth. Hegseth, totally unqualified, an insane appointment, a preposterous appointment. But like, that is a value judgment, right? Like, we are asking Republican senators to make a value judgment on that person's character and preparedness and bio. And obviously that was too much to ask for all but three of them. But in the situation of Patel, for him to be brazenly lying to their face multiple times, lying about his involvement in the January 6th choir, lying about the way that he associated with cop beaters who were jailed. All right. He's supposed to be the person that is in charge of the federal law enforcement, in charge of federal police. He lied to senators' faces about how he was working with cop beaters on a fucking song, right? Like, he lied to them about that. He just like looked at their face, was like, oh no, when I said we, it wasn't me, it was them. And like, we the insurrectionists broadly. So he lies to them about that. I think that it's certainly possible. We need more research into this, but it's certainly possible he lied to them about not knowing about the pardons. Again, I find it pretty hard to believe that it didn't get to him, that Trump decided to pardon all of these insurrectionists that Kash Patel had been working with and producing songs for. And he was the nominee for FBI director, and he caught no wind at the fact that Trump planned to pardon all of the cop beaters. I find that hard to believe. Maybe that happened. Maybe there was a wall. Maybe Donald Trump was uncharacteristically private in his communications. But I find it hard to believe. And then we have this, the firing of these FBI officials, the firing of agents, just because they were doing their job investigating people who were involved in the attack on the Capitol. Kash says blankly, you just heard it twice. Kash says point blank, he was not aware of that. And here we have contemporaneous notes saying KP wants movement. So not only was he aware, according to this report, he was directing their firings. So I just don't know how you can pretend to care about law enforcement or back the blue or integrity or rule of law or anything and confirm this person to be the director of the FBI without finding additional information that the whistleblower is lying or something else. There's some other story here besides the obvious, because he just told a flat, bald-faced lie about his role in firing the people that he is now nominated to lead. And he did it right to these Republican senators' face. If they have a single shred of dignity left, they would demand that he testify in front of them and answer questions about this and tell the truth. Obviously, there's no reason to think they have any dignity left, but I just don't understand how you can even lie to yourself or convince yourself that you are acting in a responsible manner if you confirm this clown who just lied to your face multiple times about very relevant subject matters, about his involvement with people that beat police officers. Like, if you have one shred of dignity left, you must hold Kash Patel accountable for his testimony and for his behavior. I don't expect that they will do it. This is not a Lucio the football situation, but it is worth not just acting like this is just some other thing. This is not just some exaggeration or some spin. It is a bald-faced lie about his role in firing the people that have dedicated their life to protecting us. And it's fucking shameful.